Good afternoon. Welcome to Kidney Healthy Living, our first class in our multilingual program. We're doing this in English today with Kathy Harvey, head of our dietitian nutrition services here at Puget Sound Kidney Centers. I'm Michelle. I'm going to just be doing our introduction and closing questions today. We will start out with a little introduction to the software, the program. So we're hoping that you can see us on the screen and not yourself. That's how our software works. So you should be able to see us with your camera if you have your webcam turned on. And during the program, you can see Kathy talking and then a PowerPoint, and there'll be some videos. So make sure your computer audio is turned on so you can hear the volume. We'll be recording this, so if you miss anything or want to rewatch, we can send that out to you as well. And then if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand with the little raise your hand feature in the control panel, or you can also type questions in. And because we're a grant-funded program, we like to also ask a couple questions at the beginning and then see if you've learned some new information and ask those same questions at the end to take a little quiz and check on learning. We can show our funders that we've done some teaching for our community. So I'm going to start out with those questions after I just show you a little blow up of that raise your hand feature again. So if you got a question, ask it and we'll get to you when we can and see if Kathy can give you the answer to that question, okay? We've also got handouts. We sent out some things in the mail. If you didn't get them yet, you'll get them soon. Let us know if you have any trouble hearing us or seeing us, and Alicia in the background will help you get connected. And also, of course, let us know if you didn't receive that information. We'll get it out to you, okay? So let's go ahead and do that quiz. You can take a guess if you don't know the answer, and then we'll see if you'll learn the information. First question is, the functions of your kidneys include filtering unwanted waste and extra fluid, balancing electrolytes and pH in your body, help control your blood pressure, help make red blood cells and keep your bones healthy, or all of the above. Just go ahead and take a guess there. You select one of those buttons. Getting some great answers. Great. Thanks, you guys. Let's hit that second question. There will be 3 questions. The second question, the 2 leading causes of kidney disease are birth defects and genes, heart disease and cancer, polycystic kidney disease and tumors, or high blood pressure and diabetes. Go ahead and take a guess. Mark your answer. Great. One more. Which of the following hurts, damages your kidneys? Healthy diet, eating a lot of protein, not smoking, exercise. All right, good job. So we'll get started here. Kathy's going to talk to you about kidney healthy living and give you some great information and give herself a good introduction. She is an expert with the kidneys and all about what kidneys do. And I think a lot of people in the community know about Kathy's good teaching. So go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Michelle. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this class. The focus of this is to just give you a background information about kidneys. Kidneys are one of the major organs in our body, and they're not one that's real popular. We don't hear a lot about kidney health. We hear a lot about our heart and our lungs and our brain, but we don't talk much about kidneys. And because this is what I do, I've worked with kidneys for 40 years, and I have a passion for keeping your kidneys healthy. There are so many things we can do every day that could damage our kidneys that we don't even know about. So the purpose of this class is to share with you what those things are. And then there are other things you can do to protect your kidneys and keep them working, because our goal is that our kidneys outlive us. We don't want our kidneys to quit on us before the rest of our body does. Next slide, Michelle. So the topics I'm going to go over are: what do your kidneys do? What are the major functions of your kidneys? And what are some common symptoms of kidney disease? How would you know if your kidneys aren't working well? What are some kidney healthy foods? How could you eat to keep your kidneys working well? And then what are some other things you can do to protect your kidneys? Very common things that we can all be doing that will help protect our kidneys and keep them working well so they don't quit on us. Next slide, Michelle. Why do we even care about this? Well, I'll tell you why. Kidney disease is a hidden risk. It's a silent epidemic in our country today. 1 in 7 adults in the United States has chronic kidney disease, and that's a lot of people. This really made an impact with me when I look around gatherings I'm at, whether I'm at a family function or a church function, or I'm shopping, or any type of gathering I am with other people. And of course, this last year or so, we don't do a lot of gathering. But if you think about when you have done that, or if you are doing anything in a safe gathering mode where you have family members. For example, in my family, we did a camping trip last summer where we were all outdoors, but looking around that group of adults, I think 1 in 7 of us could have kidney disease and we wouldn't even know it. That's what's the scary thing. There are no symptoms that tell you you have it, and you don't even know you have it. And that's the scary thing. And that's why it's so important to know what the signs are and know what you can do to protect your kidneys, because you may not even know you have it. It's also important to know what the risk factors are. What are some things that make you predisposed to kidney disease? Next slide, Michelle. Well, most of the kidney disease in our country is caused by diabetes and high blood pressure. That's really the majority of the people I see have diabetes or high blood pressure, or both. And if you have either of these, that puts you at higher risk of kidney disease. I have high blood pressure. It runs in my family. And so that puts me in that high risk category. That's what's so scary about this. We're seeing an epidemic of diabetes in our country. More and more people are getting type 2 diabetes, and that means more and more people are going to have kidney disease, and they're probably not even going to know about it. Next slide, please. We have a video to share that gives some background information about what your kidneys do, and we'll start with that next. Michelle's going to set that up for us.
Have you ever wondered about your kidneys? Most people are born with 2 kidneys, each the size of a fist, about 4 or 5 inches long. They're located in your back, on either side of the spine, protected by ribs and muscles. Even though they're small, 20% of the blood pumped by the heart goes to the kidneys. It takes 5 minutes for all the blood in your body to be filtered by the kidneys. which means in 24 hours, your kidneys will filter all your blood 288 times. They may be small, bean-shaped organs, but kidneys do so much more than just filter. The kidneys are called the master chemist because they bring balance to the body. They perform many functions, including filtering out waste and toxins, balancing electrolytes, maintaining a normal pH level, controlling blood pressure, helping make red blood cells, and keeping your bones healthy. Because the kidneys are involved in so many vital processes in your body, it's important to keep them healthy. Simple lab tests can tell how well your kidneys are working. If kidney disease runs in your family, you have diabetes, high blood pressure, or you are over 60 years old, you may be at risk. Talk with your doctor at your next visit. Learn more about kidneys at Puget Sound Kidney Centers.
Thanks, Michelle. So let's go over some of those things and I can explain a little bit more about what they do. Everything we put into our body, into our mouth, and even the air we breathe can produce some waste products. And one of the main things our kidneys do is a filter. They filter out the waste and the extra fluid our body doesn't need, and they get rid of it. And it's excreted out of our bodies in our urine. So that's a #1 function of kidneys, is to filter, clean the blood. And that's important to remember because everything you put in your mouth is going to eventually be filtered through your kidneys. So if the things you put in your mouth can be damaging to the kidneys, that can make it harder on them to filter and clean. Another real important job of the kidneys is to balance our electrolytes and the pH in our blood. The pH is the acid-base balance. It's like vinegar is real acid, bleach is base, hand soap is basic. And our bodies, our blood in our bodies has to be at a neutral, very neutral area of pH, right in the middle. And the kidneys help maintain that. If your kidneys don't work well, your blood can become too acid or too much pH in it or too basic, and that will not work. Your cells just won't happen if your electrolyte and your pH balance is off. Electrolytes are the chemicals in our blood that carry the electrical charge to our muscles. Things like sodium and potassium and magnesium, chloride, those are things that are electrolytes. And if the electrolytes go out of balance, the electrical charge goes out of balance. And it's kind of like the electrical charge that runs through the wires in your walls to make your light work. If the electrical charge is out of balance, it shorts out and the power doesn't get to your lights. And that's what happens in our body. If the electrolytes aren't in balance, they short out and the electrical charge doesn't get to our muscles, and especially our heart is the big one. The heart won't work right if the kidneys aren't working right. Kidneys help control blood pressure, and they do that by a couple different ways. One of them is by controlling the fluid. The extra fluid in our body is excreted by the kidneys. And if you have too much fluid in your body, your blood pressure goes up because there's extra fluid putting pressure on the blood vessels, and the pressure goes up. The other thing that will make your blood pressure go up is if you have the wrong balance of electrolytes, such as sodium. Sodium can make your blood pressure go up. The kidneys also produce some other chemicals, some hormones that can control blood pressure. And so if your kidneys don't work well, your blood pressure can be too high or too low. Kidneys produce a hormone that tells your body when to make red blood cells. And those are the red blood cells that make up your hematocrit. When you go to the doctor and they test you for anemia, what they're measuring is your red blood cells. If your kidneys aren't working right, then you're not going to have enough red blood cells in your body. One of the signs people have when their kidneys aren't working right is anemia, where they get more tired, less energy, and they may get low blood count. You can ask your doctor what your blood count is or your hemoglobin and find out what your normal range is. And in people with kidney disease, it tends to be much lower because their kidneys are no longer producing the hormone to tell their body to make the red blood cells. And then one of the other functions of the kidney is to keep our bones healthy. Our bones are made up of minerals, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, plus other components. and they're continually being built and unbuilt. The making of bones in the human body isn't something that just happens and it's done. It's continually turning over and new bone tissue is being made all the time. You've probably noticed that if you've ever broken a bone. If we didn't have bones growing all the time, we wouldn't heal from broken bones. But because we do have the bone tissue growing continually, that's how our bones can heal. And the kidneys balance that activity. The kidneys produce hormones. They maintain the balance of the calcium and the phosphorus and the magnesium so that our bones can continually grow. And people that have chronic kidney disease often have bone imbalances. They have abnormalities in bone health and they break their bones very easily. Their bones don't heal well either. So these are some of the most important things our kidneys do, and we want to keep our kidneys healthy so that they can continue to do all of these important functions. Next slide, Michelle. So how would you know if your kidneys aren't working well? Well, unfortunately, most people don't have any symptoms at all of kidney disease because our bodies try and fight to maintain the balance. Our kidneys can work and work and work harder and harder to keep doing all those functions. And we don't know there's something going on in the background. So as those functions are, the kidneys working harder and harder, it's starting to wear out and the kidney disease is getting worse and worse. But there are no signs or symptoms. People usually don't have kidney pain or uncomfort situations. Most of the kidney disease don't cause any pain or discomfort. In particular, the ones mentioned in the video, diabetes, high blood pressure, and then older age over 60. Normally you don't get kidney pain with those symptoms, so you wouldn't know that your kidneys aren't working. It's a silent disease, and the only way you really know is to have them checked on a regular basis. And this is not a difficult thing to do. It's very simple. The important thing to remember is just because you're feeling fine doesn't mean your kidneys are working okay. The kidneys are hard workers. They will continue to work and get the job done and keep you feeling good. They can kind of trick us into thinking they're doing really well when in fact the kidneys aren't doing so well. Next slide, Michelle. So how would you know if you have kidney disease? Well, there are two simple tests, very common. These tests can be routinely done at any time you go to the doctor and have a physical. I went in just this week for my annual physical, and I made sure my doctor ordered these general blood tests as part of the testing mechanism. The first one is the serum creatinine and the glomerular filtration rate. This is a very common test that's done if the doctor does a routine chemical screen of your blood. And what the lab will do, it will produce a serum creatinine level, but the creatinine level can stay within normal range way until the end when your kidneys are really worn out, because your kidneys continue to work hard to keep that blood test down in the lower range. So the one you also have to look at is the glomerular filtration rate, or GFR. And that is a calculated value that will appear on your blood test. It may say eGFR or it may say GFR. And what it is calculated based on your creatinine level. The lab takes your creatinine level and it will calculate a GFR value based on it. And most of us are born with normal kidney function, where that GFR number is going to be somewhere around 100 to 120. As we get older, it might go down closer to 60, but that's still within the normal range. If your value is following below 60, in the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, that would mean you have kidney disease. Another test that would measure your kidney function is the albumin-creatinine ratio. And this one is done in your urine. So if you do a urine specimen test for your doctor's visit, they can measure how much albumin is in the urine, and that will determine if your kidneys are working well. Albumin is a blood protein, and normally your kidneys would not leak out any protein into the urine. We want to keep the protein in our body because we use it. if the kidneys aren't working well, some of that protein will leak out into the urine and it will show up as an albumin creatinine ratio. So the lab would put that on the lab test also. We have a handout that goes over this and explains it all, so you don't have to remember all this. And you're going to get this in your packet. If you didn't already, it will get sent to you later. Do you want to pull that up, Michelle, and show it to folks? Yeah, this one they here explains both how you get the GFR number and the albumin ratio down below. So look for this handout in your packet, and you can take this with you to your doctor's visit and show it to your doctor and tell your doctor, I'd like to know how well my kidneys are working. Thanks, Michelle. Next slide. So what can you do to protect your kidneys? And this information from now on is important if your kidneys are working well or if they're not working so well. All of this is important to you, so it can apply to all of us. I'm going to talk about 4 simple things that you can do to protect your kidneys. One of them is nutrition, what the food you eat. Food has a huge impact. Remember, everything we put in our mouths has to go through our kidneys. So of course, that includes anything we eat or drink. There are some lifestyle things you can do to protect your kidneys, our behaviors, our activities, getting regular medical care. And that doesn't mean you have to see the doctor regularly. It just means get a routine assessment. And then medications we take. There are lots of drugs and medications that will affect our kidneys. And I'm going to share with you information on the ones that could possibly damage your kidneys. Next slide, Michelle. So let's start with eating. What do you do to get a kidney healthy diet? Well, I'm going to talk about 3 of the most important things that we can do to protect our kidneys. And the first one is limit our sodium intake. Remember, sodium is one of those electrolytes that the kidneys keep in balance, and it affects our blood pressure, it affects our kidney function, it affects the amount of fluid in our bodies, and I'm going to talk about decreasing the amount of sodium in our diet to keep our kidneys healthy. The other thing that's really important is the right amount of protein and the type of protein. And the type of protein you eat is almost more important than the total amount, but they're both important. And then the other important thing about kidney health is choosing a heart-healthy diet, because the kidney and the heart go hand in hand. If something is bad for the heart, it's going to be bad for the kidneys, and vice versa. So there are things that you can do in just choosing the right foods that are good for the heart, but also will protect the kidneys, because the heart controls the blood to the kidney. And if the heart isn't working well, the circulation to the kidney isn't going to work well, and that will damage it. Next slide, Michelle. So what does a kidney healthy diet look like? This is our sample kidney healthy eating plate that we came up with, and you may recognize this because it is based off of the My Plate, the USDA nutrition guidelines for Americans. Now comes in a plate design. So what the recommendation is we all look at our meal as divided it into healthy foods. And we took that concept and we turned it into a kidney healthy plate. It's very similar to the regular My Plate with a few little changes. A healthy plate looks like a quarter of your meal should be a healthy protein food. A quarter of it should be a whole grain food. And then the other half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. And that's where most of us are lacking. What I find when I talk to folks, even myself, is that we tend to not eat enough fruits and vegetables. And I always go back to what my mother and grandmother used to say, eat your fruits and vegetables, and they were exactly right. The other part of the healthy plate is including those healthy oils you may have heard out over the last few years, and I'll talk more about those. But some of the oils that we cook with and use in flavoring our food have actual health benefits. They're anti-inflammatory. They can protect our body and protect our kidneys. And then the other thing I get lots of questions about is healthy fluids. You may have heard that you need to drink lots of fluid to keep your kidneys flushed. And that is true to keep well hydrated, but it's also affected by the type of things you drink. And healthy drinks for kidneys would include regular water, simple water. Tea and coffee are healthy drinks. Milk is a healthy drink if you enjoy milk and like it. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to make up that healthy plate. Next slide, Michelle. So let's go into the sodium part first. Most of the sodium that we eat as Americans doesn't come from our salt shaker. It comes from other sources. And that's why we usually get too much of it. Only about 5% of the sodium we get in our food comes during cooking, where we actually add it to food. And maybe a little bit is added at the table. It's interesting when I talk to folks about less sodium, the first thing they tell me is, oh, I don't use salt. I hardly use any when I'm cooking, and I never add it at the table. And that's a good thing, but that's not going to help lower your total sodium intake much if you're still getting it from processed foods, because most of the sodium in our diets today is coming from food processed, not from us adding it at the table. It's not naturally occurring in foods. It's being put into the food at the processing facility before it even gets to the grocery store. And that's where most of the sodium is coming in our diet. And that's the problem, because you have to change the way you shop and cook and buy food to reduce the amount of sodium in it. It's not controlled by just you in your home. Next slide, Michelle. So where are some of those foods coming from? Well, these are some of the favorite foods that I've seen over the years that we get a lot of sodium from. And those wonderful frozen chicken breasts, processed meats are a huge source of sodium. Any meat that we purchase that comes processed, ready to quick to fix, has probably got sodium added to it. And that includes those wonderful chicken breasts that you can unzip the bag, pop out a couple chicken breasts, quickly bake them in the microwave or the oven, and have a nice, simple, healthy dinner. Unfortunately, those are injected with a sodium solution. Huge amount of sodium compared to if you go over to the other side of the grocery store butcher counter and buy the fresh packaged chicken breasts that the butcher has cut up and packaged themselves. This applies to all the other processed meats you might buy. Anything in the freezer case, fish fillets, fish sticks, hamburger patties, turkeys, pork, anything you buy in the freezer case that's been pre-packaged probably has a sodium injection on it. It also applies to those wonderful rotisserie chickens that you see in the grocery store deli areas now. Quick, easy fix to dinner. Buy a chicken and add a side salad, and you've got a wonderful home-cooked meal. Unfortunately, those are also injected with the sodium solution. Really sad, because they do taste good and they're quick to fix, but they're not a good source for our diet due to the sodium. Breakfast cereals are a great nutrition addition to the day, but unfortunately they have a lot of sodium added. Now that doesn't mean all of them, but we do find people can get a huge amount of sodium using those box products that have sodium added to them. Instant meals that you may buy a box of a meal and quickly fix a meal, or a dinner like the tuna helper, hamburger helper types. The whole, I see on the grocery store, they have aisles and aisles of these wonderful, delicious, quick to fix meals. You just add some meat to it, add a vegetable, add some water. They have huge amounts of sodium added to them. And then condiments add a lot of sodium depending on how much you put into your food. Soy sauce, of course, we all know about that one. And there are lower sodium soy sauce options, but they still have a lot of sodium. Mustard, ketchup, mayonnaise, of course, salt and seasoning mixes all add lots of amounts of sodium depending on how much you use. And then sandwiches. I always throw that in there because we've gone away from getting hamburgers more at restaurants and drive-ins and gone more to the Subway, the Jersey Mike's, the deli sandwiches at your local deli. These are filled with healthier vegetables and fresh meats, etc. Unfortunately, they're loaded with sodium. And one of the big sources in those is the bread. Bread and baked food products are one of the main sources of sodium in our diet. And you may not even notice that because you don't taste it. But the bread on these sandwiches is very high sodium. Then you put in the processed meat, whether it's fresh deli cut meat, turkey, roast beef, chicken, it's all been processed with sodium. Then you put in the mayonnaise, the condiment, you might put in some pickles, maybe some pepperoncinis, all of that adds up to sodium. And sometimes those wonderful, healthy Subway sandwiches actually have more sodium in them than if you went down the street to McDonald's and got a total Big Mac meal. It's really unfortunate. But those are some of the main sources of sodium in our diet. Eating out, restaurant food, processed foods, and quick to fix easy foods that we may have in our home. So what are we going to do about it? You can't quit eating. And I'll tell you, most of us don't have time to cook from scratch every day. So what are we going to do to reduce the amount of sodium in our diets? Next slide, Michelle. Well, the first thing we can do is read the food labels. Read the nutrition facts labels on the foods you have in your kitchen now and the foods you're going to purchase when you're shopping. It takes a little bit longer when you walk through the grocery store and you're pulling down everything and reading the nutrition label, but after a while you'll get pretty quick at it. And the amount of sodium in food is on every label. Even those rotisserie chickens are going to have the sodium if you ask them. They're going to have a label that tells you. Start looking at it and seeing where is the sodium coming in your diet. Where are you getting sodium? That's the first thing. You can't change what you're doing if you don't know what parts need to be changed. So start reading the food labels and look for foods that have less sodium. Compare different brands. Compare different cooking methods of the foods. For example, when I'm shopping, I buy a lot of canned food because it's quick and easy to have. It's good to have in the pantry for emergencies. And I will frequently compare different brands of the same products to see which one is lower sodium. For example, if I'm looking for canned beans, there may be 3 or 4 different varieties of brands of beans on the shelf, and I will compare them to find which one has the least amount of sodium. And sometimes it's not just because it says low sodium. You have to actually look at the label. I've frequently found that sometimes the organic brand has less sodium in it than the low sodium brand. The other day I was looking at canned clams and there were 2 brands. Neither one was labeled the sodium content. One was had almost 500 milligrams of sodium in a serving and the other one had 280. And I would never have known that by tasting them because they tasted the same. But I could reduce the amount of sodium I was getting almost in half by the time I purchased the lower sodium version. It's really interesting and eye-opening to start by looking at the labels and seeing what have you got and what are the differences. And you can choose different brands and get much less sodium. The other thing is to look for fresh and frozen meats that haven't been injected with sodium. So instead of buying those wonderful frozen chicken breasts, go over to the other side of the butcher cabinet and buy a large package of chicken breasts, boneless, skinless chicken breasts that have been fresh frozen or just fresh. And then you can actually freeze them yourself in a Ziploc bag, freezer bags, and you have the same advantage, the same easy use meal without the sodium. And that's usually what I do. I wait for those to go on sale. I stock up, I take them home, and I repackage them into a serving size that works for my family. And then I have the frozen chicken breast ready to use. It's just as easy if I had bought the higher sodium version. If you're eating out often or using takeout food more, which is what we do now, instead of going to a restaurant all the time, many of us just get takeout. Look at how many times a week are you doing that, because you're getting a huge sodium load when you eat away from home. And think about reducing that. Maybe instead of eating my lunch out 4 days a week, I'll reduce it to 2 days and I'll have a home cooked lunch or a homemade lunch 2 days. That's been my challenge to my husband because he likes to get his lunch every day. On his way home from his work, he'll stop and get a meal. And I've challenged him to reduce the number of days a week that he does that rather than eliminating it completely. When you are using condiments on food, mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, soy sauce, relish, pickles, choose them carefully. Look at the label and choose brands that have less sodium and then use less of them. And that can reduce the sodium. I'll have to tell you that I do love Burger King. It's one of my favorites, is a Whopper. But when I go there, I tell them no mayonnaise, no ketchup, no pickle. And I can reduce the amount of sodium on my hamburger by almost half just by taking those condiments off of it. And then by specifying how I want that prepared when I do order food out. I give a little bit extra instructions. There's a Hawaiian barbecue I like to go to. And when I tell them is don't put any salt on my dish. The dish is naturally high in sodium, but I can reduce the total amount by telling them don't put extra salt on it. And that's okay for you to do that. It doesn't hurt to ask. Some places won't do it. It's pre-prepared, but maybe they will, and it's worth asking. So those are some easy tips you can do to help reduce the sodium in your diet. And we do have a handout on that also that Michelle will be sharing it with you too. Next slide. So moving on to protein. We talked about lowering your sodium. What about protein? Protein affects your kidneys too. They are the building blocks of life. Every cell in our body is made out of protein, whether it's a muscle cell, a blood cell, a fat cell, a brain cell. Every cell has protein to build it. So we do have to have protein in our diet to build our muscles and our cells. Everything we eat just about has protein, and we get protein from a variety of foods. The most common sources of protein most people think about is meat, fish, poultry, eggs, animal products. Those have a lot of protein in them. But also milk and cheese and yogurt are high protein foods. They're more concentrated. You don't have to eat a lot of those to get a lot of protein. Breads and cereals and grains also contain substantial amounts of protein, and so do vegetables. So when thinking about that kidney plate I showed you, you're getting protein from most of those food groups. Fruit doesn't have much protein, but the other food groups all do. So that's where our protein comes from in our diet. Next slide, Michelle. Now, some foods have more protein than others. It's more concentrated. It doesn't necessarily mean it's better protein. It just means there's more of it in the same volume of food. And those tends to be the foods that come from animals, but not all. You can see on this chart the animal protein foods like eggs, poultry, pork, steak, dairy foods. Those are concentrated sources of protein. And so you get a lot of protein from eating a little bit of those food. The plant-based foods also have a lot of protein, and some of the ones on that side are pretty concentrated too. Beans, legumes, those are soy foods, those tend to be pretty high in protein, concentrated. Peanut butter and nuts, so you can eat less amounts of those and get a lot of protein also. The vegetables down at the bottom, those are not as concentrated, so you might have to eat more of them to get the same amount of protein. The way you balance your food, a lot of it is dependent on what you like to eat and your diet style, because you can get protein from all of the foods, and you don't have to eat meat to get protein, and you don't have to eat some of the other foods. Most of us have a balance of our protein coming from all sources. But there are some specific things to know about kidney healthy protein sources. Next slide, Michelle. There you go. Okay, so the protein that comes from animal foods like meat, red meat, and processed meat, that actually is harder on your kidneys. Your kidneys have to work harder to process that protein. We find that people that eat diets higher in plant proteins, their kidneys are actually working less hard. It's much easier for your kidneys to process those. So healthy kidney protein would include plant proteins, beans, tofu, nuts, and seeds. Those are protein sources that are going to be easier on your kidneys. Additionally, some of those animal proteins aren't damaging either, and that would be fish or poultry. The lean poultry, which means you take the skin off the poultry, and most fishes are kidney healthy foods. So the idea of a healthy kidney protein is to use more of those sources for your protein in your diet. Instead of eating a lot of red meat, high-fat cheeses, and dairy foods, get more of your protein from the beans, tofu, nuts, seeds, more of the protein from your whole grains and vegetables, fish and poultry, and less from the red meat and cheese. The processed meats also, they have chemicals in them that can make your kidneys work harder. So avoid using bacon, cold cuts, processed meats, deli meats. Those are things that can damage your kidneys too. Now that doesn't mean you never get to eat those things. I like a good ribeye steak as well as anybody, but it means it shouldn't be your main source of food, of protein. If you are going to eat red meats, you might limit it to once a week. If you are going to have a high-fat dairy food, you might limit that also, and limit bacon and cold cuts also. Instead of having a processed meat sandwich, maybe you make your sandwich out of some meat, a roast or a chicken that you've had, and you slice up some leftover meat to put into your sandwich. The processed meats, again, have chemicals added to them, and they have extra sodium added, which can be harder on the kidneys. The other important thing is to eat more whole grains and vegetables. Remember that healthy plate I showed you? The portion from the protein was only a quarter of the plate. It's not a big piece. And, you know, the traditionally American diet had a big, huge slab of steak on half the plate, and then a little bit of vegetable and a little bit of a green on there. But we're talking about reducing that protein portion of your plate and putting in more whole grains on the plate and more vegetables, because you're going to get protein out of those foods also, and so it balances out the protein. Instead of getting it all from red meat, you're going to balance it out and get it from healthier sources. Next slide, Michelle. Now, the other thing to remember about protein is you don't need a huge portion. We've kind of got to the idea that we need big amounts of protein in our diet. There's a lot of talk about adding extra protein, especially in the last, say, decade, when bodybuilding and fitness and exercise became a real popular idea. And the idea was that people needed protein supplements, protein drinks. And we've got this idea in our head that we have to increase the amount of protein in our diet. And that's not that bad. It's just that it shouldn't be coming from an animal, one of those high-fat animal foods. But the portion of protein most of us would need is about the size of a deck of cards. That's not a huge amount compared to what we used to see. So it's okay to have those animal proteins, but you don't need a huge slab. Treat yourself to a small steak once in a while, or a couple slices of bacon, but you don't need to eat half the plate in it. You don't need an 8-ounce steak when a 3-ounce will work fine. So look at your protein portions as about the size of a deck of cards, and that's what works for most of us. Next slide, Michelle. The next part of the kidney healthy diet is the healthy heart part of it. How do you eat a kidney healthy diet that's heart healthy also? And to do that, in particular, I'm going to talk about the fats and the oils we add in our diet. Remember, on that healthy plate, I had those off on the side. And there are good fats that are good for our kidneys and good for our heart. And then there's some that aren't so good. Those are the bad fats. Let's talk more about those. So heart healthy fats and kidney healthy fats are the fats that are more liquidy. They are the ones that are going to stay more liquid at room temperature. Things like olive oil, almond oil, nut oils, avocado oil, and then the foods that those fats come from are also healthy. Avocado, nuts, seeds, seafood, the oil in seafood. Those are all oils that are more liquidy, slippery, and they actually are anti-inflammatory. They have a makeup that produces an anti-inflammatory fat in the body, which can help reduce inflammation in the heart and the kidneys, and those are heart healthy. So we encourage people to use more of those heart healthy oils when they're cooking and preparing their foods and flavoring foods. Next slide, Michelle. The not so healthy fats are the ones that are more solid, like the fat on the chicken, the skin on the chicken, the marbling in the steak, the fat on the side of the steak, the marbling in the processed meat. Those fats which stay solid at room temperature, those are more inflammatory and more likely to clog up your blood vessels and reduce the blood flow to the kidneys and the heart. The saturated fats in dairy foods are also like that. That would be the whole milk, butter, high-fat cheeses, sour cream. Those are also fats that are not so heart healthy. Now, that doesn't mean you never get to eat those. It just means they shouldn't be a mainstay of your diet. If you're going to get away from eating red meat, the solution wouldn't be to increase your intake of cheese to get your protein. That's not going to do you much good. You have to add some heart healthy foods to your diet too, and those will be good for your kidneys. So one of the ways to make your diet heart healthy is to try and switch out your fats a little bit and focus on using those heart healthy fats. Next slide, Michelle. So to do that, choosing leaner cuts of meat. When you are going to eat red meat, trim off the fat and remove the skin from the chicken. Those shouldn't be the mainstay of the meal. That way we'll reduce the amount of those saturated harmful fats. Eat more healthy fats from plants and fish. That means more seafood, more olive oil, canola oil, avocado oil, sesame oil, nut oils. Those oils will add extra flavor to your food. Plus, they're going to help your heart get anti-inflammatory and help the kidneys. They're going to reduce the inflammation that can cause damage to your kidneys. So kind of transitioning away from using shortening, lard, butter, solid margarines to using more of these liquid oils for flavoring your foods. Next slide, Michelle. Another idea is to use cooking methods that are heart healthy. And instead of frying your food, look at using moist cooking methods such as basting it, simmering it, steaming it. Those are going to reduce the inflammatory properties produced in foods from cooking. If you are going to broil and grill, use some of the fresh herbs and spices that can add nutritional value. Use healthy oils on the food, and then avoid getting that real char on them. Maybe reduce the temperature and cook them more slowly to get a more even cooking. When you get that deep char on the foods, that causes this inflammatory process in the cooking that can be a little bit heart and healthy damaging. Using herbs and spices in cooking, whether they're fresh or dried, are also beneficial. Many of the herbs and spices have nutritional values and heart healthy components to them. Some people take pills and supplements of turmeric, cumin, cinnamon, garlic, all of these other things we know have good healthy properties. But I challenge you, instead of taking a pill of that, cook your foods with more of those components in it. Help it to add flavor to the food, and you'll get the benefit of them in a more natural way. Cooking with those heart healthy oils will improve the heart health of the meal too, and also the kidney health. So if you're going to steam or roast or braise your food, feel free to add a little heart healthy oil to it for a little extra flavor. And that helps you reduce the sodium too by adding more flavor from some of those oils. So that's another way to increase the heart health of your diet. Next slide, Michelle.
I see a hand up in the audience if you want to take a question.
Sure, I'll take a question.
Luda, you have a question? Luda, do you still have a question? You got it. Maybe. Luda, you're muted. There we go.
Oh, good. You can hear me now?
Now we got you.
I can hear you.
Sorry. How about coconut oil? Is that a good?
That's a good question. Coconut oil is a popular thing now. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of good research on it. Coconut oil is saturated. It's naturally hard, like lard, and it is not anti-inflammatory. So the rule now is that's not considered a heart healthy oil. So if you are going to use it, use small amounts for flavor. Don't use it as your mainstay for cooking. There may be more research coming out on it, but at this time, what we know is very small studies, and they haven't been done on humans. So I wouldn't assume it's a good option. I would go with some of the ones we know are good, like the olive oil, the nut oils, the sesame oil, those things, avocado oil.
Gotcha. And one other thing, I missed what you said when you said something about charred foods, and I apologize, I didn't hear that.
Okay. When we cook our food really hot and it gets charred real deeply on it, like that that one picture there on the meat there, with sometimes when you do that, especially with the steak, if you really it really sears it really hot on the burner, it produces inflammatory compounds in the meat that can be damaging and inflammatory in the body. So for people with kidney disease right now, we're recommending to not cook that way as often, to use less of that cooking method.
Okay, so does that just apply to meat, or how about vegetables as well? The common thing nowadays is, get a char on your vegetables when you roast it.
And it does apply to all foods, but it's not as detrimental when it's the vegetable or the like when you bake bread, if you overcook it or if you toast it, it gets real charred. It's not as detrimental that way. So I would say you don't eliminate completely that, vegetables from that. I wouldn't stop doing it. But certainly don't get them burned to a crisp.
Gotcha.
And the vegetables aren't as damaging. There's not as much risk there as with the meat, especially the red meat is the worst. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy.
There was one more question about alcohol consumption.
Oh, that's a good one. Alcohol that's interesting because we do know that consuming some alcoholic drinks like red wine are beneficial for the heart in moderation. And so what I recommend now is to follow I think it's the heart healthy guidelines, which say 1 drink a day for a woman and 1 for a man, or 2 for a man is okay. And if you're going to limit it to 1 drink, it's not going to really matter which that drink is. If you like red wine, that's beneficial, it's good for you. But if that's not your thing and you'd prefer to have a good beer or maybe a gin and tonic, that may not be damaging for your kidneys to have 1 drink a day. The other thing I tell patients is also check with your doctor and pharmacist, because there are many medications that will interact with alcohol. So rather than just go with what I say, ask your doctor, is there any reason why I can't have a drink, 1 drink a day? And of course, I also mentioned, because if you've got it, if you have an alcohol or substance abuse problem, I certainly wouldn't recommend adding alcohol to your diet just because it's good for your heart. That would be another side.
Great, thank you.
Next slide, Michelle. Okay, so that's it on healthy eating. We've covered what you can do with your diet to protect your kidneys and keep them healthy. What about lifestyle? Well, of course, you probably expected this: exercise. Exercise, exercise, exercise. Moving your body is good for your kidneys. It increases the blood flow, it increases the vascular health, the heart health, keeps the fresh blood going to your kidneys and keeps them working well. So one of the most important things you can do for your kidneys is to get regular exercise. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go mountain biking like those folks there. What you do is you find an activity you enjoy and start doing it in moderation. If it means you get up and walk around the house once in a while, that's where you start. Maybe it means you vacuum. You like vacuuming. Maybe that's what you want. Maybe it's walking the dog. Maybe it's walking around the yard. And then slowly increase that activity a little bit at a time until you're getting a good fitness workout. Like maybe 30 minutes a day most days of the week is what we're all looking for that. So that would be a number 1 thing. If you're spending most of your time sitting down now, get up and move. And then the second one is keeping a healthy body weight. One of the risk factors for kidney disease is obesity. That doesn't mean everyone who's overweight is at risk for kidney disease. There are types of obese tissue that seem to be more inflammatory than others, but we don't know what those are. So we suggest keep a healthy body weight. That doesn't mean you're at an ideal slim trim body weight. It means it's what's healthy for you. And the way to get there is to eat a healthy diet and exercise. It doesn't mean you go on a crash diet. Most of those crash diets are going to be harmful or stressful for your kidneys, especially if they're a high protein diet. If you're not sure what a healthy weight is for you, you can ask your doctor. You can look at the Heart Association, probably has some recommendations, that sort of thing. You can also look at the kidney websites. They might have some ideas. We have Puget Sound website might be one place to start. So having a healthy body weight and moving your body are two of the main things you can do, but also stress. Any type of emotional stress you're undergoing is going to be damaging to your kidneys. When we get stressed out, as we have been over the last 2 years during COVID, it raises our stress hormones in our blood, and those are inflammatory, and that means they're bad for our kidneys. So whatever works for you to reduce your stress is going to be useful, whether that's reading a good book, meditating, walking, skiing, swimming, playing with your pet, reading a story to your grandchildren, whatever it is you can do to bring your stress level down is going to be beneficial for your kidneys. Think about the things that you can do that work for you to reduce your stress, to make you feel better, and think about incorporating those into your life. And then there's smoking. If you smoke, stop. That's what our doctor says. I remember one time a doctor asked my son when he was going into surgery, "Do you smoke?" And my son kind of said, "Yeah." And the doctor said, "Well, you just quit." And that's what I'm telling you too. Cigarette smoke, tobacco smoke will harm your kidneys. Whether you're chewing it, smoking it, the drugs and the nicotine will harm your kidneys. And it can destroy your kidneys. So if you do smoke, figure out a way to stop doing it. That will save your kidneys. Next slide. And then there's the medical care picture. What did we mean by that? What we mean is having your kidneys checked regularly. It's just such a shame when I have people call me and tell me, "My doctor said my kidneys have almost failed and I didn't even know." One lady called me recently and said, "I never knew I had high blood pressure." And if you don't get it checked, you won't know. If you don't measure your blood pressure, you won't know if it's high or low. If you don't get your kidneys checked by those simple lab tests, you won't know if they're working well or not. So get a regular physical checkup. We recommend at least once a year if you're a normal, healthy person, and ask your doctor to check your kidneys. That's important. Know what those kidney numbers are. That handout you've got that explains the blood test and the urine test, keep that handy and keep track of your numbers. Know what they are from year to year. What is your GFR? What is your serum creatinine? What is your albumin creatinine ratio? And track those, because when you have kidney disease, you want to see those stay stable, not continue to get worse. That's the goal. And if you have high blood pressure or diabetes, manage your blood pressure and your blood sugar. Ask your doctor what you can do to manage your blood pressure. Exercise regularly will help control blood pressure. Following a healthy diet will help control your blood pressure, reducing your sodium. Getting to a healthy body weight can reduce your blood pressure. But ask your doctor about other things. Are there medications you need to take to reduce your blood pressure? And if you have diabetes, keep track of your blood sugar. Monitor it regularly. Find a goal value for you. Ask your doctor or your diabetes specialist, what is my goal blood sugar value? What is a healthy blood sugar range for me? And track your blood sugar every day to see that it's in that range. Don't assume that because you feel okay, that you're doing okay. It doesn't mean anything. Next slide, Michelle. And then what about some of those medications? One of the saddest things we also see is when patients come to us with kidney failure because they used some of those over-the-counter non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications. They used them for years for pain control, such as a bad back, a bad knee, and they've caused kidney failure. And those are things like ibuprofen, Advil, Motrin, Aleve, naproxen. Those can cause kidney failure if they're used long-term. Now, that doesn't mean you never get to use them. It means you follow the instructions and use them for a short period of time, maybe a few days, but they're not a long-term solution to chronic pain or arthritis. They can destroy your kidneys. Another problem is the proton pump inhibitors, things like Nexium, Protonix, Omeprazole, the generic name. Those are good things for managing GI symptoms like stomach ulcers, acid reflux, but they're not meant to be a long-term use. They're meant for short-term to treat the immediate problem, but if you use them long-term, they can affect your kidney function. So if you're taking one of those, ask your doctor what you can do long-term to help control your symptoms. They're fine for short-term use for a flare-up, but not for long-term use, chronic use. Another problem we see is people who are using herbal and natural supplements over the counter, purchasing from friends, family, maybe a nutrition supplement store. Many of the herbal and natural supplements have chemicals, contaminants in them that can damage the kidney. Many of them come from a natural source that may have other minerals in it that occur naturally that can damage the kidneys. And that's why we say use caution with those products. That's why I suggest instead of taking a pill of a natural product, use the cooked ingredient. Use the herb or spice in your cooking instead of taking a pill of it. If you get it through the grocery store, then it's not contaminated with other substances. But if you buy it in a pill form, it may have extra things in it which aren't on the label that could cause harm to your kidneys. The main thing is to minimize the medications you're using and maximize your health. Find out from your doctor, which of these medications can I get rid of? Which one of these might possibly damage your kidneys? If the doctor's not sure, ask your pharmacist. Are any of these medications harmful to my kidneys? And it doesn't mean you can't take them short term for flare-ups. It means long-term use. The kidneys have magic ability to bounce back and repair themselves. So if you used Motrin for 2 or 3 weeks for an injury, that's not going to be as harmful as if you use it for 2 or 3 months, as long as you're not overdoing the dose. So those are one of the other things that can damage kidneys. Next slide, Michelle. So, as a summary, keeping your kidneys healthy. See your doctor regularly and know your numbers. Eat a healthy diet. Maintain a healthy lifestyle. Exercise. Keep your body moving. Avoid medications that can damage your kidneys. Those are the things that you've learned about today in my talk. Now, to end with, because I'm a dietitian and I like to talk more about food, we have a short video from a local chef here about how he has adapted some of his recipes to be kidney healthy. Chef Dane has made a tremendous effort to work with us to learn how to cook low sodium kidney healthy food. And Michelle's going to show us a short cooking video that he helped us make to share with you.
Very quick comment. There are a couple of questions piling up, and we're going to get to those right after we finish with this video here, okay?
Hi everybody, I'm Chef Dane from Chef Dane Catering, based here in Linwood, and thank you very much. I'm going to give you a bit of a class on how to eat better with your sauces. I'm going to be making a chimichurri, ultimate fruit salsa, and I'll be making a romesco sauce. So what we're going to do is try to trick your taste buds into eliminating the things that are bad for your kidneys. So on the tip of your tongue is sweet, the back of your tongue is bitter, and the sides of your tongue taste sour. Throughout the middle of the tongue is the umami, which is more of a earth or a grounding or a metallic, things that you kind of sit there and stew on in the middle. All right, well, let's get to it. So let's go ahead and put this thing together, and we're going to put our 1 cup of pineapple, the ½ cup of blueberries that we've sliced, cranberries. What we did is we took whole fresh cranberries and we boiled them for ½ an hour, and then we let them sit overnight, and so they came up like that. Fresh grated ginger. With the lime, what you want to do is we're going to first get some nice zest in here. So what we want to do is use the microplaner in a long sweeping motion. So we're going to get a lot of good long zest. And there's an oil that comes with the lime. And so all that goes right under there. And so what you're going to do is you're going to cut that in half, and you can juice it, or you can just add the lime juice. With the mint, what we're going to do with that is that we're going to do a chiffonade of the mint. We're going to add our agave nectar. And just a little bit of the chili oil. I like it a little bit spicy because it's going to bring that real, the umami that comes out of that. So we're just going to mix that together. Now if you let this sit for about an hour, that's going to come together really nicely. And actually the enzymes from the pineapple are going to help break everything down to make this really mouth covering of lots of different flavors. And now we're going to take out the peppers, tomatoes, and the bread from the oven. That looks great. It's been in there for 20 minutes. And you can see that you got a nice little char on the pepper. The bread is nice and toasted. And the Roma tomatoes have a nice wilt on them. So let's just go all of this into the blender. And at this point, what we want to do is just give that a quick pulse, just to get it started. We're just kind of breaking up that bread a little bit. Now we can add the rest of our ingredients. Smoked paprika, macadamia nuts, some red chili flake, just about a ¼ teaspoon, garlic. We're going to go ahead and pulse that now again, just one more time. Okay, and now we're going to add our apple cider vinegar and just a little bit of the olive oil. And then we're going to give that just a couple more pulses. What we're trying to do is just reincorporate that dried bread now. So it's been in there, it's gotten crunchy. Now we're trying to just soften everything up again. So we're going to finish this off now. We're going to put the blender on high. And we're going to add the olive oil. Okay, that looks great. Now we're gonna incorporate that parsley, and it all goes in there. And at this point, we just kind of want to blend this together. So this romesco sauce can go on many, many different dishes. It's a great condiment for just about everything. What I have here is a nice red pepper and asparagus with some orzo pasta. And we're going to put this sauce right on that chicken. And look at that. We can also use that as a sauce. So anything from a condiment to a whole dish. So that can be a vegetarian or a vegan dish. Everything in there is ready to go. So enjoy that sauce. This condiment sauce is fantastic. You'll put this on steak, you'll put this on seafood. It goes good in a pasta dish, vegetarians, vegans, everything, and super easy to do. What I want you to do first is not use the blender. I want you to use that little bullet thing that you make the smoothies with. So this rotates at a faster RPMs, and what you're going to do is you're going to be able to make this really, really, really fine. So we're going to just go right into it, and we're going to add our parsley, and just pull the parsley straight off. Try to de-stem most of it. Not that it matters too much, but it just creates a finer product. And then we're going to go with our arugula, 1 cup of that as well. We're going to add our garlic, which is a teaspoon of garlic. We're going to add our lemon juice. Black pepper, go ahead and add to your liking on the black pepper. I like it a little bit more black pepper. You can stick with the half a teaspoon if you wish though. And then olive oil. Okay, so we're going to put that bullet top right on there like that. Now this is going to take a couple of times. We're going to shake it up. Try to get it loose in there. We're going to pop it on there, and we're going to hit the single use function, which is also the pulverizer, I usually call it. Right when it takes, we're going to give it a nice little shake. Just make sure all the big leaves are getting down. Give it a couple taps, put it back on there, and hit it a couple more seconds. Okay, and that's all there is to making this great condiment sauce. If you want to find me, you can go to chefdane.com. And to find all these recipes, go to pskc.net. Enjoy, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle. I think one of the things I like about what Dane's done is he's taken these anti-inflammatory, kidney healthy foods. You noticed he used herbs, spices, healthy oils, and then many anti-inflammatory fruits. And he used them to dress up foods and make them taste better and more elegant, even without adding salt. So not only was he cooking low sodium, but he was adding heart healthy ingredients at the same time. And that's kind of a nice trick. So thank you for watching this. Let Michelle take over. She can get your questions, and it looks like she's got a quiz for us now.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Kathy. Wonderful presentation. Don't go away. We have some questions lined up for you. I just want to make sure we learned a few things. So I'm going to really quickly run through those same questions and see what you guys have learned from Kathy's wonderful presentation. So the functions of your kidneys include filtering unknown waste and extra fluid, balance electrolytes and pH in your body, help control your blood pressure, help make red blood cells and keep your bones healthy, or all of the above. Go ahead and select an answer for me. You guys are doing great. All right, well, the answer is indeed all of the above. Those amazing kidneys do so many things. Second question is, The two leading causes of kidney disease are birth defects and genes, heart disease and cancer, polycystic kidney disease and tumors, or high blood pressure and diabetes. All right, and the answer is high blood pressure and diabetes. And the third and last question here is, which of the following hurts or damages your kidneys? Healthy diet, eating a lot of protein, not smoking, or exercise? Great. And the answer is eating a lot of protein. So you want to think about eating a moderate amount of protein. Some vegetarian protein is a great idea. All right, good job. They learned some things.
Good job. Thanks,
take
guys.
some questions.
Look good.
Okay, so we've got a couple of questions lined up here. Let's see if I can get those back. There was a question about, let's see, let me go back. Let me get back here. What they wanted, one question is, what are healthy levels of sodium, protein, phosphate, and potassium? And they want to know specific levels, not relative.
Okay, so I'm assuming they want healthy level of sodium intake. Is that what you mean, or lab value?
I'm assuming they mean maybe lab values, but it doesn't say. It says specific levels, not relative. So I assume it must be a lab value question.
So the question was, what are healthy
levels of sodium, protein, phosphate, and potassium?
Okay.
So it's not clear.
Okay. Well, if you're talking, maybe the person who asked the question.
So maybe we'll clarify that question.
Yeah, maybe you can reply back. Maybe the person who asked that can specify. Yep. Are you talking about lab values or intake?
Yep. Like let me ask that question. The second one, next question. Do you advise 2 or 3 lab test numbers to track kidney health?
Good question. It depends on your risk factors. If you had diabetes, you should have both lab tests done, the urine creatinine ratio and the GFR. And of course, it depends on your other risk factors and your age. But for most people with diabetes, having that albumin creatinine ratio is good too, because the diabetes definitely damages the filtering mechanism in the kidney and the albumin can leak out. So sometimes the GFR value may be not that bad, but the albumin creatinine ratio is pretty high. So I would definitely do both. If you don't have other risk factors, monitoring the GFR may be okay. Only for example, myself, I have high blood pressure, but I don't have other risk factors. And I've not asked to have the albumin creatinine ratio done on me. But as I get older, and I might develop, if I see something in the kidney, the GFR, then I would definitely go to the other number 2. You can also ask your doctor. And depending on your insurance coverage, you could have the albumin creatinine done, once a year. It's just a simple urine test. It's not difficult.
Great.
Oh, and one more thing, it's tracking it over time that's important. It's not just a one-time measure, but monitoring those numbers every year to see if they're decreasing. Because typically, kidney function, when you have kidney disease, it slowly declines over years. So the idea is to track it regularly. And if your GFR is falling in the below 60, then you should track it more frequently. If you're finding that you're falling into that yellow range on your graph, then you probably want to track it more frequently, like maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, depending on what level it is.
The person who asked that question is ready to answer the clarification, Buck.
Oh, good.
Go ahead, Buck. Buck, are you there?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had intended to say intake levels.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about intake levels. For sodium, the recommended for all of us is 2,000 milligrams a day. If you have, 1,500 to 2,000, but 2,000 is recommended for all adults now. And if that's less than what your family's eating now, and you force them to reduce it down, you can just tell them reducing their sodium is good for them too. It's not just for you, it's for the whole family. So don't feel guilty if you make your whole family reduce their sodium intake. Potassium intake, the recommended level is like 3,000 to 4,000 now, I believe. And that should be from food, not from a pill. And I do like to stress that because some people increase their intakes by taking a pill, and that's not a good idea. It should be from eating more food. And the reason they came up with that number was that people who were eating more potassium in foods had better health and better kidney function. So 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams, at least for potassium. And if your kidneys are working well, you can go higher too. That's not a problem. There's no upper limit, as long as it's coming from food, not a pill or an additive. Your other question was phosphorus, and that one is difficult. We do have a recommended daily dose allowance for normal people, with functional kidneys. And I think that's around 800 to 1,000 milligrams a day. And that would hold true for somebody with kidney trouble too. But the problem is there's no way to identify how much you're eating because it's not listed on the label. The milligrams aren't listed. And the amount of phosphorus in food, the records, if you go to a database and look it up, like you can go to the USDA database online, but it's not necessarily accurate because it may be only including naturally occurring phosphorus, and phosphorus is now added to food in processing, and it's not usually accounted for. So finding out how much phosphorus you're eating is very difficult. Many foods don't have the amount listed, but the recommended is 800 to 1,000 about. I think it's something like that, which is hard to track. So that's what I'm telling you. And if you're looking at labels and just reading the amount, you're probably not getting it all because it's not listed on labels. And then the other one was protein, I think you added, Buck. The amount of protein we need is determined by our kidney health and our body size. And for example, if you weighed 70 kilos, which unfortunately I don't know how many pounds that is, somebody can quickly figure that out, you would need about 60 grams of protein a day, 60 to 70 maybe, if you were a normal functional adult. About 60 grams would be the minimum. If you have kidney disease, then it would be less than that. But that's not a whole lot. One chicken breast, if you ate a nice sized chicken breast, that could easily be, let's see, like 30 or 40 grams of protein, maybe 30 some grams of protein just in that one thing. And that's half your protein for the day. And if you had a couple of eggs for breakfast that day, that would put you up to about 50 grams of protein. And if you only need 60 a day, that's not much more that you need. And protein is in everything we eat except fruit. So it's not a lot. You don't need a whole lot of protein. Now, some people might need more if they're malnourished or they have certain physical conditions, or they're in a situation where their body needs more protein. But the normal amount is about, what's the 70 kilos, Michelle? Did somebody calculate that?
155 pounds.
Okay. So if you weighed 155 pounds, you would need about 60 grams of protein a day. And you can kind of look at that and say, well, I weigh 180 pounds. So you're going to need more than that. If you weigh 120, you're going to need less. I don't know if that answered your question, Buck.
It does. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Great. I know it's already about 1 or 3:30 here.
Yeah, it is here. So
Let me look at check, make sure we didn't miss any other hands or questions really quick. Hold on. One question about whether Tylenol is okay.
Tylenol is okay for your kidneys. Too much Tylenol is bad for your liver, though. So it's okay to use if you're going to use a chronic medication, though. It's not good to take it long-term chronic, which would mean, months. But if you're taking it temporarily for fever or pain, that's not harmful to your kidneys or your liver. Long-term, it can be harmful to your liver.
Thanks. All right, well, since we're at the end of our hour here, I'll be respectful of people's time and just say that we are available for questions on email if you come up with something after. We will send out the recipes and information, the handouts in the follow-up email if you haven't received them yet, and certainly should have got them in the mail, as well as the recording link. If you missed anything, we can certainly send that. And there will be an evaluation after this class closes. So if you'd like to give us any feedback about the class, we certainly would love to hear your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the class. Seems like you learned a few things. Hopefully it was enjoyable for you and educational. Thank you for coming. We certainly have other classes on our website available, more resources as well. So please look for those and join us for some more education throughout the year. Thank you, Kathy, for the great talk this afternoon. It was wonderful to hear about those kidneys and all the things they do. Keep those kidneys healthy, you guys, all right? We don't want to see you over here at the dialysis center.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, you guys. Have a good afternoon.